Good evening. I'm Dr. David Gray, Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture and Principal of Dalhousie's Agricultural Campus. I would like to acknowledge that Dalhousie is located in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. I'm pleased to welcome you to this evening's Open Dialogue live event, The Future of Farming, with our panelists, Dr. Ahmad Al-Malalahi, Dr. Travis Esau, and Reem Abu Kamil, and along with our interpreter, Karina Burris, who is joining us this evening. Tonight's discussion will focus on the benefits and challenges of implementing digital technology, along with how farmers are involved in developing applicable and acceptable solutions. We will discuss and share insights on the research that is being done right here in Truro. Each of our panelists will take a few minutes to present. During the presentations, we encourage you, our viewers, to post your questions online. A little later in our program, we'll relay some of these questions to our presenters during a question and answer session. I will now turn the floor over to Dr. Ahmad Al-Malahi, Industry Research Chair and Assistant Professor in our Department of Engineering at the Faculty of Agriculture. He will discuss digital agriculture and how it addresses the entire food chain production and the challenges towards implementation and development of applicable and acceptable solutions. Dr. Al-Malahi.
Thank you, Dr. Gray, and thank you everyone for this opportunity and giving me the chance to talk to all of you. I started getting involved in agriculture engineering in the second half of 1990s, and that was an interesting time to study agriculture engineering because traditionally and until that time, agriculture engineering used to be looked at as a kind of applied mechanical engineering, where usually the focus is how to make new mechanisms and how to try to tackle problems that are happening in the fields of agriculture. And then as a next step, how to improve the efficiency of these machines. This has changed, and especially in that period, and that's why I think it has been an interesting time to study agriculture engineering, because it started moving towards more technology application. And if you look at the kind of trends in research related to agriculture machinery in the last maybe 25 to 30 years, you will see things that I have here in presenting in the green box at the upper right side. Topics related to precision agriculture, how to make these machines that you are making more precise, variable technology, how we can address variation in the field and not deal with it as one piece, autonomous vehicles, how to change the way we are running the machines and reduce operators, and then how to take advantage of what the satellites that are surrounding the Earth now and have better management of data. So these are the trends of within the field of agricultural machinery and engineering in general, and they stem out from needs that present in the current life that we are living. And mainly, if you see, I wrote in small letters there, the reason behind the need for these topics. For example, precision agriculture, you have environmental need for that, because more understanding that there should be an interaction between engineering and environment and how we can improve the sustainability of our fields by having more precise machines working. Also, that you have economic factor for these trends. For example, you want to reduce the inputs to your field while increasing the output. So how you can, one way to reduce the inputs and maintain the same results of what your field is giving you is to become more precise, and so on. And something very, very important is also changes in the society. At different places in the world, what's happening is that less people want to work in agriculture. Sometimes it happens because there's low productivity in agriculture, and people want to move forward, especially when they get higher education. And in other places, changes in the structure of the society, for example, aging, force the farmers to try to rely more on technology to solve these issues. So basically, the motivation for these changes are either economic or environmental or social. But what has helped in moving agricultural engineering from becoming very much mere mechanical to include technology is the advancement that you see in agriculture, in electrical engineering, in IT, and in software development. And you will see in the box just beside, in red, some of the advancements that you can see in technology in general, not dedicated to agriculture. And you will see remote and proximity sensing. Sensors are surrounding us in our lives now more and more. Microcontrollers are becoming very much close to our daily life. You will see microcontrollers in a lot of appliances that you have in homes and so on. Wireless communication is becoming more accessible. And more recently, you will have big data and how big data is influencing our life. And also, it is becoming easier to do big data analytics with the connection to the internet and the ease to connect to the internet. So these are elements of technology that have changed agriculture engineering from becoming mechanical engineering into becoming a more multidisciplinary field of studies where you can implement different technologies from IT, from mechanical engineering, from electronic engineering, and interact them with machinery, and then come with solutions for the environmental, economic, and social problems that you're having. And if you look at the left-hand side, you will see a box with some of the main tools that we are using now in building research for agricultural engineering. You can get satellite imagery and get data from satellites, especially images of fields, and do data analysis on them. Cameras are, since they turned into becoming digital, image processing and obtaining data from images has become very, very useful tool to understand better our fields. And in general, sensors like temperature, humidity sensors are very accessible, and they are in affordable prices that you can make different networks of them and understand better the climate, the microclimate of your fields. This is coupled with the availability of microcontrollers and single board computers. They are now, especially in the last 10 years, you will see that they have become much, much cheaper, and even hobbyists can start do projects. Since hobbyists started doing projects, and you will have different people working in developing software and so on, so the availability of software has increased, and so on. So in general, you have a lot of tools that are available, and you have different research topics that are being addressed. As I said, like precision agriculture has been in the research domain for maybe 25 years or so. Variable technology has been improving with nozzle technology that can address every single the spraying by every single nozzle, and so on. So things look bright when it comes to the technology that is available and the types of research that you are doing. But if you look at the field, what's happening, I work for the last 2 years with McCain Foods and growers in New Brunswick, and you will see that when you ask them about how they are doing stuff, some of the operations that they are doing is scouting, which is understanding how the the problems or anomalies that are in the field, they do it manually. They don't rely on all the technology which is available. If you are trying to collect data, they collect the data manually. They don't rely on everything available. And also machines, although we are talking about automation for a long time, most of the development is happening, most of the operations are happening using operators, human operators. And if you will think why this is happening, basically it is two words: reliability and feasibility. So the technology is available, but it's not necessarily reliable in the agricultural context or feasible. You will, and then comes the question, why is it like this? So you have, like, I list here 4 different reasons. Missing components. Usually what we try to do is to build a system, and within this system, sometimes you have a missing component. For example, one sensor that is not there. Although the machine is there, the sensor does not let you do the job. Or sometimes compatibility. You have wireless sensor that you want to use, but it uses Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi does not work in the field, in the outdoor field, far away, not in the urban area. Then you cannot use that sensor. And then the working conditions. Sometimes you want to put a sensor that is available in the market, but in a storage where you have high humidity. And in this case, the sensor won't work. It's not, it doesn't, the conditions are not good for it. Or the suitability for the environment, for your purpose. For example, you want to take images in the outfield, and then you have problems with light, which you don't have indoors, and so on. So all these things are things that we need to solve in relationship with our partners, mainly in my case, McCain Foods and the growers in New Brunswick, to solve the issue. And when we are looking at this, we're not just looking in the field, we are looking in general at the food supply chain. So we look at the field as the first location, and if you look at the potato production chain, starts from the production, which are the field operations. And there we have some issues happening, but as we move forward, we try to implement technology as well. And in the next step, which we try to manage the produce, what it has is coming up. This happens in a more semi-controlled environment where everything is inside storage or a building. And then finally, we do things and at the processor side and the facilities for processing. So as we move forward, the value of the product increases. So the value starts with almost 0 if you think about seeds, and then increase until it becomes product. And you will see that this is just a rough explanation of how things are. The involvement of the processor increases as the value increases, and the grower involvement drops. And then I want to just give you 2 examples of how we are doing the research with our partners. One example, which is the tractor that you see in the back. This is a sprayer that sprays on a uniform basis, and we want to change that to become more specific. We want to do site-specific spraying by looking at the anomaly, like an insect, and spray just the insect. So in order to make a quick implementation of this technology, we don't try to do the research from scratch. What we do here at the university is to try to collaborate with what is available. For example, there is a startup company who have this technology available, and what we try to do here is to do the integration. How your technology as a startup, how the software that you have developed to detect the insect can be integrated with the machine. So we work on this part, and this way we can have a quick outcome that in this case the stakeholder, McCain Food, can look at. Another example is what you can see at the right side. It's a photo of the station, how we are sorting the potatoes. So now what happens with sorting the potatoes, there are laborers, you can see them there in the photos. They remove everything which is not tuber, and everything else comes in. So what comes in is tubers, we know that, and we know that how much, 500 kgs or like 1 ton or 3 tons. But we don't know what exactly within them, like how big they are, how small they are. As long as we don't know, the value of the product keeps low. And the farmers will get the value only when they are selling, or when the products are being packed and the processor. So in order to bring the value faster to the post-harvest level, we try to implement technology there by understanding exactly what we are getting in, like what are the sizes of the potatoes you are getting, how much disease you are bringing into the storage, and so on. And this is another model of research in which we do it on our own. This is like a research that we are doing at the university. And what we try to do is an incremental improvement. We don't revolutionize what is happening there. We just try to add on a tool, which is in this case a camera, that will give us more information. And so these are just very simple and quick examples of how we are collaborating with the farmers and how we are trying to implement technology so that it benefits them in a quick way and in a way that they can see some outcomes. I will stop here, and I think I took even more than 2 minutes, and I will give the mic back to the Dean.
Thank you, Dr. Al-Malahi. I know how difficult it is to condense all of your excitement and enthusiasm about your research into just 10 minutes. What you've presented has just shown and reiterated that agriculture is truly a modern 21st century industry that is pushing the boundaries of technology and knowledge. And I know that there are going to be lots of questions when we get to the question and answer session. And just to remind everybody who's joined us, you do have the opportunity to post your questions and your comments in the chat for our panelists a little bit later on. And it's also nice to see in the chat that we have people joining us from Nigeria, Mexico, and other places all around the globe. So please post your questions and we'll look to pose those to the panel members a little bit later on. I'll now ask our second speaker, Dr. Travis Esau, who is an assistant professor in our Department of Engineering at the Faculty of Agriculture, to give us a brief update on his research on the mechanical wild blueberry harvester automation activities and how advanced mechanized systems increases farm efficiency and uses environmental resources more effectively. Dr. Esau.
Thank you, Dean Gray, for the introduction, and welcome everyone to this evening's open dialogue to talk about the future of farming. And so, growing up on a family farm here in Nova Scotia, I've learned firsthand several of the challenges that occur with day-to-day operations on the farm. And so being a mechanical engineer and from a young age, having keen interest in learning how mechanical systems operate, and more importantly, learning how technologies can help to increase the efficiencies and the operations on the farm to be more sustainable. And so that being said, before I talk more about the technology component with this presentation, I want to take a step back and sort of give a background story as to why technology is so important for the future sustainability of agriculture. And so shown on the screen right now is a picture of a commercial wild blueberry field. And so what's really neat about wild blueberries is that they're a naturally grown crop. You can't throw out a bunch of seeds and expect them to grow. And so that's why in this field you see a substantial amount of field variability. The blueberry plants themselves aren't covering the entire field boundary within the field boundary because it takes time for these plants to propagate or spread slowly by rhizomes under the soil to be able to produce fields that are uniform. And so several fields across the province have these large bare soil areas. And so this has been a major challenge for day-to-day operations of managing these crops because of this large variability. And so another large variable that's present with most all agricultural crops is in terms of the weeds and grasses that are present in these wild blueberry fields. And with over 100 varieties and species of weeds and grasses that are growing in these fields, it's very important to think about how applications are applied. And so unfortunately, with current technologies that are commercially available for farmers, uniform applications are what are being applied to these fields. So herbicides, fungicides, insecticides, and fertilizers are all being applied uniformly, blanket applications across these fields without taking into consideration the large amounts of variations. And so with the latest and sort of advanced technologies and sensor integration into commercial applicators, we really need to understand how we can implement these so that we can have smart technologies that have the goals to reduce agrochemical use, increase farm profitability, while at the same time decreasing environmental pollution. Because sustainability of the industry is very important. With rising input costs, it's very difficult to make ends meet unless we cut costs and increase yields. And so precision farming and digital agriculture is that mode of action as to how these input costs can be reduced while increasing yields. And so I'm very excited to introduce some of the current research that my research team has been working very hard to help develop. And so one such technology is that of a smart spreader. And so Patrick Hennessy is a master's student that is working to train convolutional neural networks to be able to discriminate different types of weeds and grasses that are growing in these wild blueberry fields. And so how this is done is several thousand images have been collected from fields across the province and trained to distinguish the difference between different types of weeds and grasses. And so the video that you see on your screen now is showing automatic detection of fescue grass. And so fescue grass is a major concern. Actually, it's the #1 industry concern for weed management right now in wild blueberries, because it's the herbicides that have been available for several years now are less effective at actually controlling this troublesome grass species that's growing in these fields. And with the yield limiting factors that play a role with fescue and the implications with harvesting through this grass, it's really something that we need to figure out a way to get rid of effectively and cost effectively as well. And so some of the limitations with some of the herbicides that are available commercially is that they're very expensive. So for example, Casseron is a new group 20 herbicide that would be very good at getting rid of that fescue grass in these commercial fields, but it's not feasible because of the cost. It's $700 per acre. Applying that uniformly across the field is not practical. It's not sustainable. And so we need to look at the technologies that could be incorporated into this production system to be able to limit that so that it's not going to cost so much to get rid of that fescue grass. And so this type of technology that is being developed has the ability to significantly reduce input costs. So fescue has been researched to only cover a small portion of the field area in these fields. And if we can actually just spot treat Casseron, it would be very beneficial for the industry as a whole. And so with the machine vision technology, it's able to do the detection in real time. The second portion of that is the applicator itself. And so commercial applicators in the spray world have developed individual nozzle control, but with granular applications, Casseron is a granular herbicide. In the granular applicator commercial machines, there's no such operation that can be done on a site-specific basis. So there's a PhD student that is up for tackling this specific project right now to actually convert and develop a new custom applicator that can apply granular herbicide site specifically. And so it's actually incorporating individual nozzle control for that granular product. And so it's very important that this technology is developed and commercialized so that it gets in the hands of the growers so that they can reap the benefits of lower input costs so that they can remain sustainable with farming into the future. So on my next slide, I'll switch gears a little bit and talk about harvester automation. And so when we talk about automation and the agriculture industry, it's something that's it's a buzzword, and it's a heavily researched area across Canada and across the globe. And with that, when we're talking about large fields and open fields with different applications that are being applied, the backbone of automation is really the GPS systems that are available using the satellites up in the sky to be able to help position the machinery out in the field accordingly and follow the guidance lines and things like that. So GPS has been great for helping to automate some of the field tasks for various crops in Canada. And for the wild blueberry side of things, spraying these agrochemicals and spreading fertilizer, GPS is great. But unfortunately, traditional GPS systems, auto steer in particular, have been inadequate to be able to help guide the tractor, the harvester system, because of a few different reasons. And the first is the traditional GPS systems weren't able to operate at low travel speeds. And with the harvesting of wild blueberries, it's done at a very slow pace, actually less than a mile an hour. And so for maintaining your proper heading, traditional GPS systems weren't able to do that. And coupled with a side-mounted harvester picking reel with a narrow picking width and the rough field topography, it's been something that hasn't been able to be achieved in the past. I'm very excited to report, actually, last season, my research team helped to test some of the latest and greatest GPS auto steer equipment and found it to be very successful at actually maintaining the proper trajectory while traveling in the field. And actually, it was able to be 20% more effective at traveling the proper guidance line as compared to a skilled operator. So actually, our technology is getting to the point where it's not only as good as a skilled operator, it's able to achieve better results. And so that's really where I see the future of farming is advances with technology being able to be more efficient and more cost effective than traditional operations that were done manually. And so that being said, there's several stepping stones along the way. One of those stepping stones is shown here on this slide with the development of a closed loop control system for automation of the mechanical wild blueberry harvester's picking reel. And so operators know that maintaining the proper picking settings of the harvester head itself is very laborious, and it's very monotonous throughout the day. And so the more we can automate the control system, the better we can perform at more picking efficiency and better field efficiency. And that's really where sustainability is going to help us in the future. And so on my next slide, I'm going to talk more about how advances with efficiencies have really sparked the interest of the provincial government here in Nova Scotia. So the provincial government partnered with the Canadian Agriculture Partnership and actually launched the Wild Blueberry Harvester Efficiency Program to be able to help get this technology out to the growers. And so they actually developed an incentive for growers to upgrade their traditional equipment with the latest and greatest advancements to be more efficient, both in terms of picking or berry recovery, as well as field efficiency. And so some of the research work that's been done last year, one of my master's students found that the auto bin loader system was able to do a 26% better job as far as field efficiency goes as compared to the manual traditional method of small box stacking and operation on the back of the harvester. So there's definitely a major increase in efficiency with the automated hydraulic bin loader system. And so other advances with the technology that's being implemented right now with this efficiency program is in relation to improved debris handling on the harvester, which helps to increase berry quality, does a great job of that. There's been improvements with the cleaning brush to be able to help understand the settings and mechanism of how this should operate for both a better lifespan as well as better debris cleaning performance. And then further research has been done to help with the picking reel itself to be able to increase picking efficiency, to be able to get as much of the crop that's out there as possible. and so that it helps the growers get the product that they grew from the beginning. And so, wrapping things up, where I see farming going in the future to be sustainable anyways is incorporating as much technology into the day-to-day farming operation as possible. And to do that, we need to develop reliable, easy to use systems that can outperform the previous traditional human methods of farming. So with that, I look forward to the Q&A following the next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Esau. Throughout your presentation, you talked about, the importance of technology and automation, and it just also made me reflect on the fact that, throughout history, agriculture as a sector has always been an early adopter of technological changes and advances. Being an early adopter as a sector, we then test it, change it, adapt it, advance it, and then it tends to step from agriculture into broader use. So, this technology that you're seeing today with our speakers, that it's being tested to destruction through agriculture, but it's also being adapted and it's being advanced for the broader use right across the piece. So thank you, Dr. Esau. And again, I look forward to the question and answer session. And I would just remind viewers that are with us that you can post your questions in the chat to our panelists. So we're now on to our third speaker this evening, and I now welcome Reem Abu Kamil, who is a current PhD student with us in the Department of Engineering here at the Faculty of Agriculture. Reem's research is in the development of nutrient deficiency sensors. Reem began her studies in the midst of the pandemic this summer. However, she was able to work with farm consultants throughout the summer and gained practical experiences to assist her studies. Please welcome Reem.
Thank you so much, Dean Gray. It's my pleasure to talk about my research, and I really appreciate this opportunity. And good evening, everyone. I'm going to talk about what we are doing now in the research. And as Dean Gray mentioned, my topic is about the nutrient deficiency sensors. I'm going to present at the beginning what are the current approaches done by the farmers to take the proper decisions in order to apply fertilizers. So currently we have two approaches. The first approach, as you can see in the left side, is the manual approach, in which the farmers, they do random samplings, and they take some of the samples like petioles, and specifically they take the fourth top leaf from the plant, and as you can see, they just cut off all the leaves, and they take the petioles for further laboratory analysis. But you can imagine if we have a massive land, it's not easy. It's not an easy task, and it's really time consuming, and it's costly too much. And also they need really skilled laborers to conduct such kind of sampling to ensure the required quality of the samples. And most importantly, that when they take such kind of samples, they send it to the laboratory, and they wait at least 10 days to have back the results from the labs. This time gap, they might miss the application of important fertilizers, and that's why it's really important to fasten and to improve such kind of approach. And the second approach that is currently in the market, which is the available sensors, either the ground sensors such as the Yara sensor or Green Seeker, or even the satellite sensors. And they have so many challenges, and I can spot the light on the challenge that when they take the reflectance, either the visible or NIR spectra, they might be affected by the soil and even by the light conditions, and they have indirect measurements based on the chlorophyll content, and then they translate such kind of reflectance data into nutrient nitrogen application. So the current market, they have the detection only for the nitrogen. However, during our discussion with our collaborators in the in New Brunswick, they have also the high input cost for other nutrients, not only for the nitrogen, as you know, the most important macronutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So we started our discussion with the collaborators and the growers in New Brunswick to listen to their challenges nowadays, and as I said, to make it fast in taking such kind of decisions, whether to apply specific fertilizer in this area or not, and to mechanize the application of fertilizer, we need to develop sensors. And there are different steps to develop sensors, as you can see in the upper right side. As the first step is the data collection, and data collection, which means that we need to take the samples as much as we can, so we can make a lab testing, either for chemical testing, the same approach what is going now by the farmers, and also to take the spectral analysis. So we are not taking only the betule and just remove the leaves. No, we are taking the analysis of both nowadays. So we are analyzing chemical analysis for the betules as a reference, as the same as did by the farmers, and also we are taking the leaves to do the spectral signatures. And the second step is the big data analysis, which means that once we develop and create our data sets, we started to do the statistical analysis and to build our algorithms and to define the specific relationships between the spectral data and the chemical analysis. Once we reach to this point, we go further to modeling and estimation steps, which is really a very important step. That once we applied our statistical analysis and building the algorithms, we started to do modeling to estimate the exact nutrients in our samples. And the second step is the sensor development. And I want to mention that most of the research nowadays, they stop until the modeling and estimation. It's not going further for the sensor development, and I will explain now why, because of the attached challenges to this step. And also, after we will be able to develop the sensor, we will go further, not to stop at this point, but to be applied in the field, so we can support the growers in mechanizing the application of nutrients based on the sensor outputs. However, these steps is like nicely presented, but there are many challenges attached with it. And basically, the first challenge is related to the data collection step, that we need to ensure the data quality and also the high cost equipment. And what I mean by this, that we want to do the same as the farmers they are doing currently, which I mean that they have the specific protocol in getting a specific leaf for the lab analysis. However, the growing season here in New Brunswick is very limited. It's from May until the end of September. This is very short season to get our samples and to be able to develop our model. So what we are doing currently in the campus, we are having indoor growing. As you can see, this is photo from the indoor growing, and the challenge was to control the whole space in terms of light and heating, and also the soil moisture content. So we can make sure that at the same group they have the same conditions, and to take the samples further to do our lab analysis. And also the advantage of having indoor growing, we have a variation of application for fertilizer. What I mean that we can control one parameter and fix the other parameters, which is really difficult to do in the field. Like, we cannot see in the field the application with zero phosphorus or zero nitrogen. So the indoor growing enable us to have such kind of variation in our data sets. But this is, like, as I said, the challenge is to ensure the data quality is like to have the same protocol protocol of sampling. And when we take these samples also, we need to do lab analysis, as mentioned, that not only for the betules, the chemical analysis, but also we are doing spectral analysis for the leaves using the spectrophotometer in the laboratory. And how much we are increasing the wavelength range, how much it's more expensive analysis. And also with the data we get from the field and the data we get from the indoor growing, we need to also to have more data to build our model, which like one of the very useful tool is to have the hyperspectral imaging that could like give us the spectral information, the spectral signature of each data point in our analysis. But these equipments are really expensive and challenging in terms of the data quality. And also, as we mentioned that we started this research just with the beginning of the of COVID-19, and we had very limited accessibility to New Brunswick. But we overcame this challenge because of our relationships with our collaborators in New Brunswick. So they helped us to perform the field data collection, and we are not behind the schedule, and we move forward in our research. And the second challenge is related to the big data analysis, which is really a complicated task, and also it's a time-consuming task. But the backbone of this stage is to ensure the data quality as an input to this stage. And the third challenge is related to the sensor development. As I just mentioned, that the available sensors in the market now, they are affected by the soil noise or even the light conditions. We cannot manage it because it's in the field. However, in our research, we are not interfering with the soil. We have this idea, like we are going to move forward with our research based on segmenting the pixels. So we are taking the leaves, we will segment the pixels to give us the signature or the output of the chemical signature of this leaf. And we will not we are not thinking, like we don't have the noise from the soil. And to wrap up my talk is it's really needed to do the basic research, of course, in collaboration with the industry, to bring the science into practical equipment. It's not enough to do just research and to post it as a scientific research. And so our research is application-driven research, and so we will move forward in collaboration with our growers in New Brunswick. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Reem. One of the interesting things I recently heard an international leader in precision agriculture and digital agriculture say is that we're being somewhat held up in our advancement in research because of our inability to deal with the huge data sets that we're now producing, which is incredible. Is that our scientific advancement and knowledge, in this crucial area is now being held up because we're producing so much data. We don't have the systems to be able to deal with it. Your comments there, Reem, regarding big data and analysis is absolutely bang on as well. Right. I'm going to firstly say thank you to all of our panelists for providing your expertise and your knowledge on this topic of the future of farming. Throughout the session, our viewers have been putting their questions in the chat box. So we're going to take a few minutes now to pose them to you to get your thoughts. Okay, so first question, and I was watching these questions coming in, so I've had a bit of a sneak peek. But the first question is, given the high cost of these high-end digital technologies, how are small farms, which are very prominent in Canada, able to access these technologies? So I'm going to point that one towards Ahmad first. Ahmad?
Yeah, it is a challenge that you have to look at all the time and think about it. But we usually solve these issues through the development phase. I have experience of developing sensor networking for individual farmers while working for a big industry. But then we had to do the market segmentation and decide what is the use case. So it starts from the farmer. We will go to the farmer, see what the use case is, and then try to adopt the technology which is available. The technology not necessarily need to be high end and super expensive. I work with temperature sensors and solar radiation sensors, and solar radiation sensors can go from few cents up to $2,000 for one sensor, and then you need to do some engineering work to be able to adopt let's say the low end and make sure that it is reliable in the conditions where you want to apply. But it is something that needs to be addressed. Because if you want to have sensors that are being used in laboratory environments, it is for research. Usually, it won't work as is in the field. For example, what Reem had just talked about now, we want to develop based on the hyperspectral camera. We don't intend to have the hyperspectral camera mounted on a machine in the future, but we need it as a tool for research and development. Once we know exactly what we have, and this also based on correct data and so on, then we will scale down the tool from hyperspectral camera to multispectral camera, and maybe we can go even further to a commercial camera and make sure that this one, the low-end camera, is working as efficient as the high-end camera. So it is something that needs to be addressed while developing the product. And if it is something to be made for individual farmers or like a family-based farmers, then this should be taken into account from the beginning, the use case and how the application is going to be.
Thanks, Ahmad. So so it sounds like one of the key things in developing the research and taking the research to application is always thinking about the affordability, because it's all about the application. Reem, you're nodding. So do you agree with that?
Yes, exactly. As mentioned, that we are using these high expensive cameras just to do our research and to know exactly which wave bands that has the correlation. And we understand it's really high, it's really expensive, and it's not affordable, even not for the individual farmers, like it's not affordable. So that's why we are doing our research and to like specify which wave bands that we could develop our sensors.
And Travis, you work with a lot of small farmers. So from your perspective, what's your experience in this?
Yeah, I guess being an applied research program, we need to make sure at the very start when we're discussing with the end user and working with different collaborators on projects that every time we think about how this can be achieved cost effectively. So we always think about the end goal, and that's getting it into the hands of producers, and not only large producers. We're talking about the small family farm as well. And so with the technologies that I talked about and other ones that are being researched, the idea is to not only rely on buying brand new equipment to be able to use it. It's looking at how this can be retrofit onto existing traditional equipment, but sort of just add to the technologies, add to the existing equipment with newer technologies. So it's not that huge capital cost of buying a brand new system. It's just sort of adapting affordable technologies to previous systems so that it can be achieved at sort of the cost that is achievable for the small farm as well. So of course it's sometimes easier said than done, but it is something that is very important and is achievable.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to our next question. So Brandy says, computer vision enthusiast here. Dr. Esau, so Travis, you're next. Very exciting and fascinating work in autonomous robotics. Did you collect and annotate your images to train the CNN, or is it publicly available? What future applications do you envision for this technology? And it says, that is my son, Sam, asking.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for the question. Very, very good, great question. I've had a very, very, very busy research team over the last few years because we've collected our own data. When I said we collected several thousand images, this is actually tens of thousands of images have been collected. So I've had summer staff work very diligently in the field to be able to collect this big data of images. And so how these CNNs are actually developed is through training it to understand where the target is in the field. And so not only do we take images of targets, we take images of non-target areas as well, and train that image to be able to train that computer system to be able to understand the difference between a target and non-target. And so it required a huge amount of data sets in the field to be able to do that. And then more labor intensive than that was actually getting back and training each one of those images so the computer understood what the difference between a target and a non-target was. And so with fescue grass, of course, we ran through several hundred images to be able to allow this CNN to be able to go to a new field scenario or see a new image and recognize where in that image the fescue was. And so that being said, that's just one application of where CNNs can be used for targeting in the wild blueberry cropping system. I can see it developed in several different aspects as well. We're developing a model right now to be able to have a CNN that's actually trained to be able to tell the level of berry ripeness in the field. So in the past, yield monitors could help understand sort of how much yield could be in the field using image processing. But really, the latest technology is allowing us to not only map the yield, but also the level of ripeness that the field's at. So this can help with proper scheduling of the harvesters getting into the field. And so I see this being adapted for disease monitoring, and the list goes on in terms of the applications that the CNN image processing technologies have within this industry, and it's expandable for all the commodities across Canada as well. So thanks for the question. Very, very valid.
Thanks, Travis. It goes back to what I said earlier. Agriculture has always been an early adopter of technology, and then we use it, we adapt it, we change it, and then it can be made more broadly used in sectors and more general population. Okay, so next question, because that one was quite specific. So Andrea says, I've watched the film Kiss the Ground, which examines how tilling the soil and use of pesticides leads to soil erosion. Have you found this throughout your experience? And if so, have you been able to address it? So who would like to start with answering that question? Everyone's smiling. Reem, do you want to start? Can't hear you.
Maybe I don't have a point to add here. Yeah.
Okay. Ahmad?
Yeah, they are very harmful, actually, tilling and pesticide application. And we need to find ways to reduce them. And a lot of research is being done in this direction. No-till and zero-till are two topics, keywords that are being applied here and there to address this issue. In potatoes, this is a bit complicated because you are going in potatoes. It is tuber, right? It's underground being planted, so you disturb the soil when you are harvesting it, and this is a big challenge. What we are trying to do now with McCain's to maintain the health of the soil is to see how we can, not on the tillage level, on the harvesting level, which is basically very much the same in terms of disturbing the soil. We can downscale the machines so that we don't compact them that much. And actually, why we need tillage is because we are using this big machinery. And if we can downscale the machines, we can reduce the need for tillage. But what tillage does is basically exposing the soil and the organics in the soil to the environment, and having runoffs when rain is in the rainy seasons and so on. So this is the big problem. And on my side, the way we are trying to address this problem is by reducing the demand on tillage, by reducing the sizes of the machine while harvesting. Regarding pesticides, yeah, I think at our department here in the Department of Engineering, it is, and we have different researches are being run to see how we can reduce the pesticide application. I mentioned this briefly in my presentation. We are working on a see and spray a project to reduce the spray of insecticides and herbicides, basically now for the time being. And let's see how this is going to work, because fungicides needs to be implemented all the time. But we have enough technology and sensing and in machinery that can allow us to do a site-specific application for some of the plant protection products. And we are addressing this at the moment by using machine vision as well.
Thanks, Ahmad. Great answer to a challenging question. Okay, so I think we've got time for one more quick question from our viewers, if there is one. Oh, yeah. So Norm says, I appreciate the theme of starting a project by talking to farmers to ensure there's a problem to be solved, and then combining technology with existing tools. Do you sometimes feel there is technology in search of a problem to be solved, and that's often when there's not an ROI for the producer, return on investment? Okay, so I am going to go with Travis, and just a quick response, because we haven't got a lot of time left, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it quick. I think that's, again, a very valid point. There's some technologies that have been developed without a need, and there's probably a wide range of things that could fit that bill. One specific example, I had a knock at the door of a company that, this is when drones were just emerging into the agricultural world, and the drone companies were pumping these out very steadily, but they didn't necessarily have an application yet in agriculture. And so I guess they were a little bit before their time. They were looking at how they could be applied in agriculture because they were developed, and they were trying to sell them. And so it took time to be able to find their use in agriculture. And after that took place, they've been very successful. So sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to be able to find their place in the spot. And sometimes at the end of the day, there's no return on investment, and they're not applicable. But it could go either way. So I'll keep it short.
Thanks, Travis. That was a really good short answer. So thank you very much. And I see that Reem and Ahmad were both nodding. So it looks like they were both in agreement with your response. Okay. So unfortunately, we have run out of time. That's all we do have time for tonight. I know that the discussion is really actually just warming up. So, please don't hesitate to reach out to us as a faculty. We're here for you, and we're here for agriculture as well. So I would like to thank very much our speakers this evening, Dr. Ahmad Al-Malahi, Dr. Travis Esau, and Reem Abu Kamil. It has been a very thorough discussion, and one that will no doubt continue as we move forward. I would just like to finish by saying, and I say this to my faculty regularly, that the biggest challenges we face globally right now are feeding our population of 10 billion people by 2050, and climate change. And the solutions to those global challenges are only going to be found in agriculture by people that you've heard from this evening. And so it's crucially important that we continue to embrace modern technology, think forwards and innovatively, and encourage and entice bright young minds into agriculture to be the future researchers and the future solution finders. So thank you to all of our viewers this evening. Stay well and please take care. Thank you, everybody.